it's also an opportunity to tap into something deeper. So I know that's what you're going to share with us today. And it gives us the capacity to go beyond the difficulties and maintain a joyful outlook and to be able to find the humor in everything. So Jenny, I'm going to pass it over to you. And can you start us off with how we can reframe the challenges that we encounter so as to regain a positive outlook?
Um, so I think how we can reframe is by just trusting more, by trusting in God more and realizing that everything is a part of His plan. And so I think that would help to reframe the challenges. And I don't know, there's this one story that I really love that really kind of illuminates trusting in God. And I think about all the time, and it really helps me. Is I really love the Norbertine sisters in Tehachapi, and I like going there for retreats. And one of the sisters, Sister Mary John Paul, I was talking to her one time, and she was telling me this story about how people bring them things because they're cloistered nuns up in the mountains. And so people bring them things so that they can, live and they don't have to leave the monastery. And so someone brought them like a big pallet of tomatoes. He was like a tomato farmer. And so he brought them all these tomatoes and then also brought her 5 balloons. And she said that when she saw the balloons, she immediately asked God, God, why did you bring me 5 balloons today? And I thought that was so interesting because I would have asked the farmer, why did you bring me 5 balloons? Not God. But to her, everything comes from God. So those 5 balloons came from God. So, anyways, a little later that day, another person came and was bringing other things for them. And he brought his son, and he says, "Oh, by the way, it's my son's birthday today. He turns 5." And so she went, "Oh, okay, I'll be right back. I have something for you." And so she gave him the balloons. But that is just the perfect example of trusting in God. Everything comes from God, and we just have to wait and see why these things are happening. But yeah, I think that if you think of God as your friend, then all the challenges that come your way, you're just going to you know that he has our best interests in mind, and so we just trust in him. Then it kind of relieves some of the anxiety because the goal ultimately is heaven. And so everything after that is just challenges that he's bringing to us. And so it's just, yeah, trust.
That's excellent. I love that example. And it's such a great reminder to see everything that comes to us, that everything that happens to us is always coming from God, rather
Yeah.
than, falling into discouragement or becoming sad, right away turning it around and seeing God's hand in that. So thank you. That's a good example. What personal experiences can you share with us in which you were able to see the lighter side in what was objectively a difficult circumstance? So can you share with us some personal stories?
Yeah, well, one obvious one that comes to mind is this whole coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
But it kind of started a lot earlier for my family. So my family, we started getting really sick in November with asthma, and the baby Blaze was starting to get sick also with breathing and this cough. And we found out in January that we had mold in the house. So it's oh no. So we found out that we had to move out of the house for a month, and they were going to have to rip out everything because it was in 2 of the rooms and in the bathroom, and we didn't have anywhere to live. And so we were trying to figure everything out. And then we move out, and then the coronavirus happens, And before that, I had, Lent was about to begin. So I had, made these plans of oh, for Lent, I'm going to give up TV and or watching TV by myself, and I'm gonna give up Instagram and social media. And so then,
God, sense
you
of
know,
humor.
yes, the coronavirus happens, and it's like God's plans are so much bigger than ours. And it was just funny to me that I had these small little Lent plans, and his plan was so much bigger and so much better, because I think it really, again, taught me to trust in him. Because if I think about the present, he's providing for me. I have food, I have a roof over my head, I have my family is healthy and we're all together, and he is providing for us in the moment. So I just have to trust in him. I can't think about the future because I don't know what's going to happen. I just have to trust him. And it's like this Lent was so great because it really taught me that, of just trusting in him.
Yeah, that is excellent. Before you move on to another
Yeah.
story,
Oh,
another
yeah.
example, invite our listeners. So welcome to everyone who's joined us. I want to invite our listeners to make comments, send us any questions you may have for Jenny, or any other thoughts. So we wanted to invite you to, turn in your comments. So, so I think you had another personal story to share,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
which I think perhaps
So,
our listeners can relate to.
so I'm 35 and I just got married 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago.
Awesome.
So I was dating for a very long time, and I just remember those years being really hard, of dating in LA and just being so discouraged and thinking like God forgot about me, or like is just never going to bring my partner. I really feel called to the vocation of marriage, and I guess he's just like forgot about me or something. But I think with through the dating, I would just get so like discouraged with dating that I started turning my dates into like skits. And I would come home and I would start writing how horrible the date was and turn it into a funny story so that I could just tell other people and make a joke out of it, you know? So yeah, that I have like a whole book just full of of
Can you share one of those stories with us?
let me see, one
I
of the
think it was
stories. Oh,
I think
well, there's
one, yeah, about the long distance relationship.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
so I went on this date, and if you guys live in Los Angeles, I'll explain it if you don't. But I went on this date, and during the course of the date, it was going really well. Like, like we were really hitting it off, having great conversation. And then he asked me where I lived. And at the time, I lived close to Chinatown, which is like in downtown LA. And he said, "Oh, I don't do long distance dating." And so I was like, "Oh, well, where do you live?" And he goes, "I live in North Hollywood," which, by the way, is like 20 minutes away. So that was long distance dating to him. And so, he broke up with me on the first date. So,
But God had a bigger plan.
yes, he did.
Out.
And it was perfect, and it was like exactly at the time that I needed to meet my husband. You know, I was ready and I was prepared, and he brought him the perfect person for me, and I couldn't have picked somebody more perfect myself. And yeah, it just came at the right time, and I'm so glad it came at that time. And yeah, God's plans are way better and way bigger.
That
Yeah.
is an excellent story. So I think again, it's just good to contemplate that, since God's plans are bigger than our plans, that if God does have a vocation to marriage for people, that,
Mhm.
dating is a process, but they can still see the lighter side of it. And
Yeah.
just to know that God has someone in mind for each person, but to be able
Yeah.
to humor in those situations. So it's an excellent idea. Maybe we can think of other things in our lives like that
Hmm.
happen. Just, hey, God is, he's taking care of everything. So I can leave everything in his hands, and I'm able to, be able to make a like a skit out of this, or to see the humor in this. So that
Yeah,
brings us.
and I also, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, another point is I think I also for a long time was really concerned on like them and the thing like whether they were right or wrong. And it was a priest one time that told me that said, "Hey, if you want to be married, then you can work on being a good wife now. You can really work on yourself so that you're when that person does come along, you're ready." And that was like a light bulb to me because I think I was so concerned with them or like if they were right or wrong, and I really wasn't like focusing on myself and bettering myself, and already working on being a good wife. So that was like, oh wow, okay, that helps a lot.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. I had examples like learning how to be a better cook, or take care of a
Yeah.
home. So that's excellent.
Yes.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea. That
Yeah.
seizing the daily opportunities, for the bigger plans that come.
Yes.
So I think that's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
That brings us to our another question, and maybe for some it's hard to imagine, how do we jump from something that is difficult, that is very hard to deal with? Like how can you possibly move from a difficult circumstance like losing a job and jump into like laughing about it? That doesn't seem possible. So can
Right.
you walk us through some practical steps that people can take so they can achieve this good sense of humor, no matter what the external circumstances? Like, what's the process of that? Like, how do you get from something that's very difficult to something that you can find the lighter side of it? You can find what's amusing about it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes things can be so daunting, like you just lost your job or you just got really bad news or something about, your health or something. And I think when that happens to me, it's because I'm thinking about the future. My mind is just thinking about what's going to happen, and if this happens then that's going to happen. And what helps me is to ground myself first in the present. Like if it's just so bad that you're kind of like having a little bit of anxiety or your mind is just really wandering and you can't possibly find joy in the moment, I think it's good to ground yourself. So something that I would do is think about like where I'm sitting. So right now I'm sitting in a chair. What am I looking at? I'm looking at a computer screen in front of me. What can I smell? Like, it smells like bacon or it smells like pizza or whatever you can smell. What can I hear? And I can hear water running. And so those things kind of ground me into the present so that my mind isn't wandering and thinking about other things. Then I think the next step is gratitude. So start thinking about things that you're grateful for that you do have. Okay, I just lost my job, but I have a car that's paid off, or I have some skill sets. I have a house. I have food in my refrigerator. Think about all the things that you have and really start working on the gratitude, because I think that gratitude is really tied to joy once you start thinking of all the things that you have. Um, and then you can kind of start to see the lighter things of it. And you could even like reframe what is light or humorous or funny about it. Like, wow, I just lost my job and I was planning a vacation, in July. Like, that's funny. Like, I don't know. I had big plans and I guess that's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
But that's a way to work from the inside out. Um, Another way is you can work from the outside in, like, because, in acting, we really have to work like on our emotions. And so sometimes in a scene, like you really have to be happy. So you have to have all these kind of tools in your toolkit to work on different emotions. So one way is from the inside out, and another way is from the outside in. So outside in could be putting on a fun song and listening to a fun song, or making a silly dance and just dancing in your living room silly,
Yeah.
or making up, four different kinds of laughs that are weird or something. So yeah, you can try both if you really can't, shake off the funk that you're in.
Yeah. Jenny, how would you, if you had a friend who was going through a challenging moment,
Mhm.
and they were having a hard time with this, what would you say is the best way to accompany a friend who's going through a difficult time? Or maybe share a
Yeah.
story about that, or just some steps people can take for that. So these are all excellent ideas.
I think listening first, sometimes your friend just wants to get it all kind of out there. And just talking to somebody else sometimes helps. And once they've kind of said everything, gotten it all out, all their grievances and fears and frustrations, then you can start asking questions, trying to help them see the lighter side of something. Like, will tell me, a few good things that are good, or tell me some things that are good that could come from this, um, and just start like having a conversation to help them kind of get out of that, um,
Mm-hmm.
funk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now when it's harder to be with people physically. So
Yeah.
that could be
Yeah.
phone calls or text messages or FaceTime,
Yeah.
meet someone outside in a park, social media,
Yeah.
etc.
One thing I started doing, because I'm a very, like, I think extroverted person, and I need to like be around people. I need, especially like my girlfriends, like I need that like female energy. And so during the pandemic, it was really hard to not see them, and to just be home all day. And so something I started maybe like a month ago, which I wish I had started it sooner, was I like I call it, my son's 1 years old, but we call it the cookie fairies. And so we'll make cookies, and we'll deliver them to, like, we'll pick two people that week, maybe someone that just had a baby, or like someone that, I haven't talked to in a while, and I'll text them and say, hey, I made cookies, like, can I bring them to you and drop them off? Socially distance, like, if you're comfortable, I'll wear a mask and everything. And it's been really nice, and I take them the cookies, but then we like stand on their porch or outside, and we like have a conversation. Just seeing them like face to face, even if it's 6 feet away and there's no contact, like, has really made my day go by so much better. I feel like a sense of joy, and it's like you're doing something for somebody else, and like putting love into like baking cookies. But that's, there's other things that you can do like that. Yeah, help a friend that needs something, and yeah, because I definitely need that. It's hard to be at home all day.
Oh, oh, no, I think that's a great idea. And you bring up a good point. Just the idea of forgetting about ourselves, and
Hmm.
out to other people is an extraordinary source of joy. And being able to forget our own problems and helping others to solve their problems. So I think that's also a really good point. And
Yeah.
being able to laugh with people and help them regain that joy. So I think that's excellent. Yeah, so the examples of reaching out to people, connecting with
Hmm.
people, um, the
Hmm.
idea of gratitude. So if someone were to like, and reaching out to our listeners here, um, what are some main? So what are some takeaway points that people can already start working on this? So no matter what a person's situation is right now, and we know there's all kinds of situations going on right now, and probably most of us either know someone who's been maybe lost a loved one, or who's lost a job, or has some direct contact at this point. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so can you, what are some take home points so that people can kind of start working on this? So starting tomorrow, how can I grow in this trust for God? What are some daily things that people can start incorporating so that they can achieve this?
Yeah, I think reaching out to a friend. I also like in my journal or like in my calendar, I'll write the names of like a couple people like every week that I want to like reach out to and check and see like how they're doing and like really we'll have like a long or try to have like a long text conversation, with them, like how are you doing, and like really talk about what's going on and like check in on them. But if it's someone that, yeah, like they just lost a job or like lost a loved one, you can see if you can bring them a hot meal or go, you don't even have to make them any, you can go to the store and pick up, maybe some groceries or something for them, or see if they need anything, or yeah, maybe even, talk, in the driveway apart from each other, social distance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that we're meant to live in community, and so it's good to try to maintain that and to like reach out because it does help to like step out of yourself and not really think as much about your own problems when you go and talk to somebody else.
Yeah, no, these are all good points. One last question before we sum up. There may be people out there who I know I've also, this question has popped into my head from time to time that some people may feel like, well, I'm not naturally funny. I'm not naturally, I don't naturally see the funny side of things. I think other people have a more natural ability to that ability to do that. So even though I try to trust God and I try to reach out to other people, it's still hard for me. But can you speak to that? That there are some people where it may seem that they just have a natural ability to be funny and make other people laugh and find the lighter side of things, and other people is just they may feel like they just don't have that skill. Is that a skill that other people can build? Taking all of this foundation into account, but is it a skill that people can grow in?
Yeah, I think that some people are better at it than others or have it more naturally than others, but I think like God created us and he, gave certain people different talents, but I think I don't know if I said this already, but if God is all loving and God is all knowing, like I think God is all funny also, and he created laughter and he created humor, and so he must be the funniest out of all of us combined. So I think that you can work on it. And I mean, for me, I like to point out things that are like just absurd or weird or just too much, like with the whole coronavirus thing. And then all of a sudden there was like murder hornets. It's just like, that's too much. Like, come on, like what's next?
Yeah.
And so that's funny to me. I just started laughing when I read about the murder hornets because this just was so like just over the top.
And yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think just working on finding things that are just strange or that have happened to you that are just like, okay, this is totally absurd and too much,
No, I think that's excellent. Being able to reframe things and see it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's excellent. So to sum up, so some of the things we've been talking about, some take-home points are the whole foundation of being able to see the humor in things, being able to laugh in life, even though there are many difficult circumstances going on right now, is trusting God. That seeing everything that happens to us, whether they're small things or big things, that everything that happens is part of a divine plan, and that the closer we are to God, the closer we, maintain that relationship with Him, the more capable, right? That in seeing His hand in things. And then also the importance of seeing things from a broader perspective, not just focusing on what is difficult in the moment, but just taking a step back and being able to laugh at things. For example, your story about giving up screen time for Lent, and then all of a sudden, that's all we're doing. Like that side of things, it does give us a capacity to laugh. And it's something that many people can relate to, or the stories about dating, being able to make hits out of that. Like, okay, a lot of people relate to that, and I can see, God does have a bigger plan, and I can laugh about this in the moment. And then lastly, the idea of mindfulness, like being able to just focus again on the present, not worrying about the future, and not, focusing on the past, but just focusing on the present moment, and doing that with gratitude. So being able to find the joy in things, being thankful for what we do have and not what we've lost, or not giving into anxiety about what is going to happen in the future. So when we feel that, that's another moment to be able to tap into trusting in God and seeing that it's all part of his divine plan. So do you have any final words? This is great. I hope all our listeners have some insights into, how they can see things from a different perspective. But do you have any final words or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean the main thing is that our brains are very powerful, our imagination's very powerful, and so if you're really like, not joyful and not happy, there really are things that you can do in the moment to get you out of it. So yeah, just remember that you don't have to sit in not feeling joyful or not feeling grateful, that there's, tools that you can use to, like, get yourself out of it.
Yeah. Well, I like your point too. And that's something we can all do, is reaching out. What's one thing I can do for somebody else? And that helps us to forget our own circumstances and situations, and to think about someone who may be in more difficult circumstances or harder situations. So, and that bounds back to us, and gives us the joy of being able to help other people and serve other people.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Jenny, this was fabulous.
Great.
Comments that we hope that all of our listeners have gained some insights and can, start looking at life, from this, broader perspective, pulling God into the picture, pulling other people into the picture, maybe living with a sense of community, in this, now that we're still sheltering in place, but starting to reopen. There's maybe a little bit more anxiety about that, but really trust, that, okay, there is a bigger plan. There's something that's beyond me, that God is going to take care of this, with all of my efforts. So, great. So I want to wish you and your family
thank you.
A good week, and keeping you in our prayers, and as well as everyone listening to us, and hopefully people can move forward, with a smile on their face. Laugh at things, and okay, great, Jenny. Thank you so much.
And maybe you'll get visited by the cookie fairy soon.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. So excellent. So before we close, we want to thank our speaker, Jenny Cadena-Rueda, and we wanted to invite our listeners to send us a message about topics they would be interested in hearing more about. We don't yet have a topic for next week, but we are working on that. So we are really open to ideas and thoughts about something people would like to hear about, and we'll go out and find more great speakers such as you. So Jenny, I want to wish you a lovely goodbye.
Thanks.
And hope that you and your family and your friends and everybody, continue to work through this pandemic, that you stay healthy and you stay safe. And hopefully one day soon we'll be able to give each other hugs, not just birthdays.
I hope so. For real.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.